Almost 2 out of 3 Americans claim Social Security before their full retirement age. And the financial world treats that like a mistake, like millions of people all fumbled the same math at once. You've heard the advice: wait, delay, hold out until 70, and your check is the biggest it can ever be. And for a lot of people, that advice is exactly right. But here's the part almost nobody says out loud. For some people, claiming at 62 isn't giving up. It isn't a failure of planning. It's the smarter move for their life, their health, their household. I want to walk you through the real break-even math and then the specific situations where filing early actually comes out ahead. Not excuses, not rationalizations, real strategy. This isn't financial advice, and I'm not here to tell you what to do. Talk to a fiduciary about your own numbers. I'm here so you can run them with your eyes open. I'm Vivian, and this is The Quiet Dollar. Let's run the numbers. Before we get to the cases, let's put the actual numbers on the table, because the whole decision lives here. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. That's when you collect 100% of your benefit. File at 62, the earliest you can, and your monthly check is permanently reduced by roughly 25 to 30%. Say your full benefit at 67 would be $4,000 a month. Claim at 62 and it drops to somewhere around $2,800. That's a real cut, and it's for life. Now go the other way. Wait past 67 and you earn delayed retirement credits, about 8% more for every year you hold off, up to age 70. At 70, that $4,000 benefit becomes roughly $5,200. So the gap between the earliest check and the latest one is enormous, well over $2,000 a month at the top. Which raises the only question that matters here: when do you break even? When does the person who waited finally collect more total than the person who took smaller checks for longer? Roughly speaking, and your exact numbers will differ, comparing 62 to 67, you break even somewhere in your late 70s. Comparing 62 to 70, it's around 80, 81. Here's what that actually means. Live well past 80 and waiting wins, more total money, no contest. But if you claim at 62 and don't reach that break-even age, the early filer comes out ahead, sometimes by tens of thousands of dollars. The system is built so that a person living to average life expectancy collects roughly the same either way. The only thing that really changes is when the money shows up. So the honest question isn't what's best, it's what's best for a life that looks like mine. Let's go through the cases where the answer is file early. Case 1, and it's the one people miss most. Your spouse often can't collect their spousal benefit until you file for yours. If your husband or wife didn't build a big work record of their own, or their own benefit is less than half of yours, they may be waiting on you. And a spousal benefit can be worth up to half of your full retirement amount. That's real household money. So picture it. You're 62 with a solid record. Your spouse has almost no work credits. If you white-knuckle it to 70 to max out your personal check, your spouse waits 8 extra years to receive a single dollar. Yes, your check is bigger at the end. But run the household total, not just your line on the spreadsheet. For a couple with a big earnings gap, filing earlier can put far more into the home over time. Optimize the family, not the individual. Case 2 is the uncomfortable one, so I'll just say it plainly. If you're single and your health and family history genuinely point to a shorter timeline, the math shifts hard toward filing early. The average person who reaches 62 lives about 22 more years. But average is just the middle of a very wide range. Half of people land on the short side of it. If you have chronic conditions or a family pattern of passing early, pretending you'll cruise to 90 isn't optimism. It's a planning error that costs you the money you paid in for decades. Remember the break-even. If you don't expect to reach it, the bigger check you'd get by waiting is a check you may never live to cash. Social Security is insurance for your retirement, and if your retirement is likely to be shorter, the insurance should start paying sooner. This is a hard, private call. Make it honestly, with a doctor if you need to, not out of fear and not out of denial. Case 3 is more advanced, and it rarely gets explained well. When one spouse dies, the survivor can step up to the higher of the two benefits. That's the survivor benefit, and it's based on what the deceased spouse was receiving. So here's the coordination. Say you have health concerns, but your spouse has the higher earnings record and the longer expected life. You can file early on your record, collect real money while you're both here, knowing that when the time comes, the survivor benefit runs off their larger record anyway. You're pulling income from both records over the full arc, instead of squeezing one and starving the other. This one demands an honest conversation about health and longevity between two people. But for couples where the picture is clear, starting the lower earner's check early can be genuinely smart. Talk to a fiduciary before you lock it in. The survivor rules have real fine print. Case 4 feels backwards at first. Why would someone with real assets claim early? Aren't they the ones who can afford to wait? Walk the logic. If you've truly stopped working and you're living off your investments, every dollar you pull out to cover the grocery bill is a dollar that's no longer compounding. Take Social Security early to cover part of your spending, and you leave more of your portfolio invested and growing. In some scenarios, 8 extra years of growth on the money you didn't withdraw beats the bigger benefit you'd have earned by waiting. That's Walter's kind of math. He's comfortable, he's done working, and his money is working for him. Claiming early lets his invested assets keep their 8 years of runway instead of getting drawn down. There's a second benefit here, and it's the quiet one. It softens what planners call sequence of returns risk. If the market drops hard early in retirement while you're pulling heavily from your accounts, that damage can be permanent. You're selling low to eat. A Social Security check as your baseline means you pull less from investments during the ugly years. That's not right for everyone. It depends on your portfolio, your returns, your taxes, your longevity. But for some people with real assets who've genuinely stopped working, filing early and letting the portfolio ride is the better outcome, not the worse one. If this calm, run-the-numbers way of thinking is landing for you, take 1 second and subscribe. It's the exact lens we bring to every video here. Okay, the next case is the one that surprises people the most. Case 5 is a cousin of Case 4 with a sharper edge. Some people claim early on purpose to invest the money themselves. Here's the shape of it. File at 62 instead of 70, and you collect 8 extra years of checks. Each one is smaller, yes, but you can put every one of them to work. If your investments earn more than roughly 7 to 8% a year over that stretch, and you live long enough, those invested early checks can out-earn the bigger delayed benefit. Now, this is where I have to be straight with you, because this is the second price in reverse. Waiting hands you something close to a guaranteed 8% a year, no market, no risk, backed by the federal government. Invest your early checks instead, and you're betting you can beat that guarantee. Some years the market gives you 20, some years it takes 20 away. If it tanks right when you've traded a sure thing for a maybe, you made a bad trade. You gave up guaranteed larger checks for returns that never showed. So this one is only for experienced investors who don't need the income to live on and who understand exactly what they're wagering. For the right person, it's a legitimate bet. For most people, the guaranteed 8% is the better deal, and there's no shame in taking the sure thing. Case 6. You already have a guaranteed income floor arriving later, a pension, or a deferred annuity you bought years ago. Say you stop working at 62, but a pension kicks in at 65, or an annuity starts paying at 67. Your later years already have a stable floor built in. You don't need to squeeze Social Security to create that floor because it's coming from somewhere else. So Social Security's job changes. It bridges the gap years, the money from 62 until your pension or annuity turns on. Once that floor arrives, your combined income clears what you need, and Social Security becomes the supplement instead of the foundation. The real question is whether you can cover those bridge years another way. If you can easily fund 3 to 5 years from savings without straining anything, maybe waiting still wins. But if claiming early smooths the whole trajectory without forcing big withdrawals, it can be a clean, sensible strategy. Case 7 is the one nobody plans for, and plenty of people live. Sometimes the body just doesn't make it to 67. Decades in physical work, construction, nursing, the warehouse floor, the factory line, and by 62 the knees are done, the back won't cooperate. And just work a few more years isn't a real option, or it isn't physical at all. Maybe you were laid off, and after months of looking, no one will hire someone in their early 60s for the money you need. That happens far more than anyone admits. Here's what I want you to hear. If you genuinely can't work and you don't have enough saved to wait, Social Security is there for exactly this. That is what it's for. Using a benefit you paid into for 40 years isn't failure. It's the system doing its job. Do the homework first. Is there lighter work, work from home? A year or two you can draw from savings while you look. But if you've truly run out of options, claiming early is the right move, and you owe no one an apology for it. Don't let financial shame keep you from a net you already paid for. Now, I promised you balanced, so let me turn this all the way around. There are clear situations where filing at 62 is the wrong call. If you're still working with a real paycheck, early filing usually backfires. Below full retirement age, Social Security withholds $1 of benefits for every $2 you earn over the annual limit. So you'd lock in that permanent reduction and have checks held back for earning too much. It's the worst of both worlds. The withheld money isn't gone forever. They recalculate at full retirement age. But claiming while you're still earning well rarely makes sense. If Social Security will be your main income in retirement, lean toward waiting as long as you can. When it's the foundation, every extra dollar of monthly benefit matters enormously. The difference between the small check and the big one is the difference between getting by and not. And if you've got longevity on your side, parents who lived into their 90s, good health, no major conditions, the odds say you'll sail past the break-even point. For you, waiting simply means more money across your life. The default advice exists because for a lot of people it's genuinely right. I just don't want it applied to everyone by reflex. So how do you make this decision like a grown-up instead of a bumper sticker? 4 honest questions. 1. Know your actual numbers. Log into your SSA account and look at your estimates at 62, 67, and 70. Real dollars, not vibes. 2. Assess your health honestly. Not pessimistically, honestly. Family history, current conditions, a real conversation with your doctor. 3. Think about your household, not just yourself. If you're married, optimize the combined benefit. Sometimes the higher earner delays, while the lower earner claims early. Sometimes it's the reverse. It depends on both of you. 4. Map your other income. Pension? Real savings? Is Social Security the supplement or the whole floor? That answer changes the strategy completely. And know this, once you factor in spousal, survivor, and divorced spouse rules, there are hundreds of filing combinations. The simple 62 versus 70 chart is just the doorway. If it feels like a lot, a few $100s with a fee-only fiduciary can be worth tens of thousands over your lifetime. That's not a cost, that's leverage. So here's the reframe. The best filing decision isn't the one that looks tidiest on a spreadsheet. It's the one that accounts for who you actually are, how long you'll likely live, who depends on you, what you already have, and what you truly need. 2/3 of people claim early. Some of them are making a mistake, but plenty of them are making exactly the right choice for the life in front of them. Don't let anyone shame you into a number that doesn't fit your life, and don't let anyone talk you out of waiting when waiting is clearly your play. If you want the whole picture, how a decision like this fits into building real, quiet wealth on any income, watch Master Personal Finance in 12 minutes next. It ties all of it together into a few simple laws. This isn't financial advice, And I'll say it one more time. Talk to a fiduciary about your own numbers before you file. But whatever you choose, choose with information, not fear. Because sometimes claiming at 62 isn't giving up. I'm Vivian. This was The Quiet Dollar. Because real wealth is quiet, now go build yours.